Microsoft has not shared Game Pass numbers in over a year, and I will say that multiple times, in over a year and many times, because if they were beating their expectations, you'd have to think that they would be shouting these numbers from the rooftop, and yet here we are, they are keeping them very close to the chest and haven't revealed much of anything. So we've seen other titles land on other platforms, and Microsoft's obviously loving that cash grab, and they've already signaled that's just the way it's going to be. But the calculus here begins to change, and I wonder if this is having some impact on the studio. So think of it as this example. Historically, if you go back prior to Game Pass, if you wanted to play Forza, let's say Horizon 4, doesn't matter, 5 or whatever, you would go pay $60 and you'd get that game. And it did not matter if you played for 1 hour or 900, the Forza studio still got $60. In the Game Pass world, because Microsoft does not share how they allocate revenue to studios, and they never will. They don't even tell us console sales numbers at this point. They're never going to share that little detail. If you download Forza Horizon and you play it for 1 hour, they will probably get allocated a certain slice of your $20 you're paying that month. That is not $60. Now, if you play 900 hours, you're probably getting a little bit more. But I think what's probably fair to say is that most studios are not getting that $60 they typically got for a title, which is very clearly making it hard for them to be, on paper, profitable, if you will. And I think that calculus is starting to play out, and Microsoft's like, okay, maybe this isn't as good as we thought, primarily because, let's be real, if they're only in that like $35 to $40 million, or $35 to $40 million, or 40 million users, I should say, that's a far cry from numbers we had been hearing, like saying, hey, we want to hit 100 million. It doesn't even matter what that number is, but obviously you can see if they're lagging behind in subscribers, then how much the studios are making per title becomes very constricted. And I think this might be some of the core issues.
That was easy.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another Xvault gaming video. Xvault here, and today we're going to go over an edition of Thoughts from the Vault because we had some massive news in regards to the Xbox ecosystem, the Xbox game division, and boy oh boy, is there a lot to kind of go over here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump to it. All right, so like I was saying, what we're going to do is get right to the theme, right to the meat of the matter, so to speak. First off, before we start this video, I do want to offer my thoughts out to all the Xbox staff affected in regards to the game studios, the devs, everybody in between. That's never an easy thing to go through, whether you heard rumblings or rumors of it or not. That sucks, waiting on bated breath and going through that. So, but what we're going to do today is talk about the direction of Xbox, what happened just recently, what to expect in their future, and some other people speaking out in regards to what's going on as well. So let's start. I'm going to kind of rapid fire this stuff off. I'm hoping to not make this video too long here. So I'm going to rapid fire some of the main points here. But first of all, like I said, with the opening video there, that kind of just foretells and foretold what was going on, right, over time, and some thoughts behind that. But as we get into it here, the first thing I want to share here is just some articles, right, in regards to this. And this is what we're going to talk about, and then talk about that direction. The first one stating, Xbox invites developers to AI roundtable the same day it does mass layoffs, stating Microsoft is asking for feedback at Gamescom 2025 on using AI to make development more efficient. Now, guys, I think this is a big push for AI. We knew this was coming. I am even blown away at how fast that Microsoft has taken hold of AI, right? I think a lot of us, if we are working in an office setting, a lot of us are very exposed to Copilot, ChatGPT. If you're in school, high school, college, whatever, you're around that sort of stuff. AI, and when it comes to technology, that stuff is super quick. So this, I think, is a big reason why we have this major push from Microsoft, for better or worse, right? As we continue to go on, in addition to that, right? It states, of course, from Brandon Sheffield here. Meanwhile, this email came from Microsoft this morning. Hello, we are excited to be heading to Gamescom 2025 in Cologne, Germany again this year. If you will be also attending, we are offering an AI roundtable where you can provide us your feedback on how you'd like to see us use AI in our tools and processes to make the game development and publishing experience more efficient. And it goes without saying, I think, guys, regarding AI, right? How a lot of us thought hey, this is going to replace a lot of jobs, not just within developing, right? A lot of people are worried about, robotics and all sorts of other machinery, as well as AI learning, taking over jobs and taking those jobs away from the workforce, from actual human beings. So I am a little disgusted with the fact that this caught on so quick. It wasn't a gradual, I understand, but these devs and everybody involved may not have had a hand, and more than likely didn't have a hand in them saying, yeah, go ahead and acquire ABK and ZeniMax, and you're going to have all this hardcore debt, even though you're one of the richest companies out there, a $1 trillion company. They probably had no idea. I wouldn't have any idea that my job would be therefore in jeopardy, right? So it really is just, and again, the reason I'm specifying this and I'm going over this too is because I don't think even Nintendo or even PlayStation's out of the woodworks when it comes to stuff like this. I hope there's a better culture within those two companies, Nintendo and PlayStation, since we are talking about games, not talking about Amazon or anything like that in this segment. But in regards to doing that, I hope that they understand the ramifications as far as being a decent human being. And I understand a business is a business and they're out to make money and that's what they do. But I'm hoping they look at this scenario and understand how many folks are affected. I'm hoping these folks land on their feet. I hope they're able to land jobs at elsewhere that do need developers and so on and so forth. But it just goes to bear that, hey, man, the fact that Microsoft latched on so quick to this AI stuff, and again, they're not going to be the only ones that do this. I'm just hoping it's done in a much better way, in a much better fashion here. But as we continue on, I do want to showcase a quick video snippet, and when I say video snippet, I just mean screenshot of Destin Legary here, stating the future of Xbox looks bright in the face of turmoil. And again, this was captured 16 minutes into that video being uploaded. He gets right in there. I don't think there's enough information, and this is why you're waiting for me to even report on this stuff. I don't want to do initiated or immediate reactions to this stuff. It helps keep the foot out of the mouth type of situation. Destin, again, ready to grift and get on that, right? He was making a video every hour, every 2 hours throughout the day. He did end up retracting this one, of course, because it was in bad taste, it was in poor taste, that sort of stuff. And it's the fact of the title here, the takeaway after everything going on, and we're going to go over exactly what went on here, guys, in case you don't know, we'll kind of bullet point and other specifications here. But the future of Xbox looks bright in the face of turmoil. What looks bright for the future of Xbox? Them being the full third-party company they are, and now embracing full-on AI that quick, and replacing a lot of staff that quick. It's just kind of crazy, honestly. And just to have a lack of self-awareness yet again, Destin and Jez, and we'll get to Jez in another segment outside of this video and how he's been having a terrible week or month or however you want to put it. But, the grift is real, guys, with these guys. And they just consistently lie all the time. They don't stop. Let's continue here. So, again, speaking of Jez, by the way, he has an article here I just wanted to share real quick. And the title, as you can see, Xbox has turned a corner. The future for Microsoft's gaming platform once again looks incredibly bright. Well, once again looks incredibly bright, right? This was published just on June 18th of 2025, so just a couple weeks ago. He knows, he claims to act like he doesn't have insiders, and then he does, on other hands or other instances, claim that he does in fact have insiders. And so, pick a lane, and if you do know what's going on, and I have a high inkling he knew what was going on. I have people in my ear all the time with good resources and such that I do not speak on because A, I don't want to betray that trust, and B, I'm not going to, fuel that rumor mill, right? I'm just not going to do that until I know for a fact, even if I'm like getting word verbatim here, not going to do that. But if I knew what I know and I sit here and spin and say something else, you're lying to the community, you're lying to your followers, you're harming the user base like I've gone over multiple times on this channel. It's not a good look. You look like a buffoon, you look like a clown. Period. The end. So, as we continue to go here, it's just crazy. So I want to harken back to the Destin stuff here, right? We're looking on this, like I said, 15 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours, almost every hour or less like I was talking about here. Video, Perfect Dark, canceled, studio closed, Xbox layoffs, 9,000 hit at Microsoft. Third video, right? That was 3 hours total ago at the point of this screen capture. Xbox will never be the same. Do you see how they're in this for the grift? You know, it's not one or to sit there and let the dust settle for a minute, get all your information out. And I understand this is now his full-time gig because he left IGN. This channel is his bread and butter right now. I understand. When you're getting 1.1K views in 15 minutes, and then at this point, 2 hours, 3.4K views, and within 3 hours before that, another 2.3K views, people are going to look for that. So you're constantly capitalizing on it. New views, new views, new views, getting fresh. You're staying up to date. That's why you want to subscribe. The benefit of that all is just not in good intent. It's just not. And again, this is what I'm specifying when we're talking about harming a brand. This has not helped out the Xbox ecosystem for quite some time because you have these talking heads like Gaz and Colt and Destin and so on and so on and so on. It just doesn't stop. And everything tangles together in this big old web that harms itself. It's just like this self-destructor type of situation. And it's just the lack of self-awareness for throwing it out. They throw it out the window because the grift is real. You know what I mean? It harms the brand. It's unfortunate. I wanted the competition. The competition's no longer going to be there. Let's continue over here. Hope stated, by the way, from Ghost of Hope, exclusive, Phil Spencer will be retiring from his role as CEO of Microsoft Gaming after the launch of the next generation Xbox. Phil Spencer is working closely with Sarah Bond and her team to ensure a smooth transition for her takeover as CEO of Microsoft Gaming, so on and so forth. So rumor has it that he is going to retire at the launch of the next generation system of Xbox. What that will be, more than likely this hybrid type of scenario. If you haven't known already or were under a rock at this point in time, Helldivers 2 is coming over to the Xbox ecosystem. This was broken news, right? This was new. So again, interesting, but the fact that they are, you know, becoming more of this hybrid type of PC-centric ecosystem, this doesn't surprise me at the slightest. And, you know, games as a service, that's what they need to do, is reach more players, and we'll see what happens with that. However, again, rumor that he will be stepping away, I'm not surprised one bit. So during all this information, by the way, people were supplying screenshots of his username. He was on Xbox at the time that the layoffs were being announced everywhere, playing Indiana Jones. Kind of not the best look. At least put yourself in offline mode, maybe. That's just really poor taste, in my opinion, as a CEO. But anyways, let's continue here, guys. So as we continue going forward, we have another article, right, by Tom Warren this time, of course. Microsoft is laying off as many as 9,000 employees. Again, this is 9,000 employees across Microsoft, not just the Xbox division. So keep that in mind. So when you're hearing 9,000 layoffs, or however anybody else or any other content creator wants to spin that, just keep in mind that's across all branches of Microsoft, including, yes, Xbox, but all branches of Microsoft. And the latest job cuts, as he states, come after multiple rounds of layoffs over the past year. And this is true. It's just stack, stack, stack. And someone was putting together the, I wouldn't say algorithm, but the trend, and it happens to be every 3 to 6 months where they're having layoffs. So they have been gradually getting ready for this moment, not letting the public know, not letting their employees know. A lot of them were blindsided by this, and we'll get over that and over to that in just a second here. But let's go over a few more articles here. What other games were canceled here, guys? Well, what's interesting here at this point in time is, ladies and gentlemen, Rare's Everwild canceled amid Xbox layoffs, right? So Everwild, and we had some back and forth on this between Jez and Phil Spencer saying things are going good. There's a good routine with the game. There's a good gameplay loop, all that sort of stuff. They promised this game was doing fine, was going to come out. They're just working on it, etc., etc. And again, another article. Everwild is making good progress, confirms Phil Spencer, like I just stated, right? This was back on February 17th of 2025. Not that long ago, guys. Continuing, Phil Spencer himself posting out, great day at Rare, hanging out with the developers at their desks and playing Everwild, right? He was over there just visiting, not one iota, not one concern, not even keeping it under wraps. This should be under wraps. If you know for sure, or don't know for sure if this game rather is going to come out in a timely fashion, or there's some hiccups on that, then yeah, we need to reevaluate that and not share that to the public that you're out visiting these guys and everything's going swimmingly, guys. Not a great look. How do you believe anything that Phil Spencer says? Beyond me. Not including the shills and frauds and grifters, guys. But we continue here, right? Mike Straw posts in an article, Greg Mayles, director of Banjo-Kazooie and Sea of Thieves, leaves Rare. This is huge. He was a big part of development for Rare. Him being gone, huge problem. That was big. And that was, again, of course, posted on July 2nd, just recently. So who knows what's going on behind the scenes there? Maybe you guys know more than I do or don't. We'll see what happens there. We continue on, of course, right? Perfect Dark canceled. The initiative shut down and Xbox no longer working with Crystal Dynamics. So how long has that game been in development? And in development hell, we all knew this, right? We all knew this was probably going to happen, or that there's just nothing. Ever since the initial gameplay, which Kotaku came out, by the way, and stated that this was a simulation, this wasn't real, and all that stuff, and people ran with that, and then out came one of the developers saying, no, that's not true. The game was somewhat playable. You did have to hit certain markers and stuff for it to work, but it was somewhat playable. Regardless whether it's simulation or somewhat playable, it was in a rough state, wasn't coming to fruition, another one canceled. This is a game that a lot of folks were planning on playing, right? That's the unfortunate part of that there. So as we continue though, right? In addition to that, unannounced MMO from the Elder Scrolls Online dev canceled. Veteran studio head steps down amid Microsoft layoffs, right? By Wesley Yen Poole. Stating, of course, Matt Fuhrer, boss of the Elder Scrolls Online developers ZeniMax Online Studios, has stepped down amid the cancellation of the studio's unannounced MMO. Sources close to the project told IGN that this MMO was a brand new IP, unrelated to both Fallout and the Elder Scrolls, and that it had a sizable team behind it. This team is now cut as part of the layoffs hitting Microsoft today. Again, published on July 2nd. Man, does this not speak turmoil in every way, sense, and form, right? This is not something light. This isn't your typical round of layoffs. I typically don't cover a lot of layoff stuff because they do happen from every corporation, every company. As a matter of fact, take a look at this. For those that saying I don't cover the Sony side, I just don't cover them on each side all that often because they happen. They're unfortunate. It sucks, but in this case, it's massive. And we have major shakeups due to AI and other situations, right? As we continue, multiple Call of Duty studios hit by Xbox layoffs. Even Call of Duty, the golden goose, the golden egg, is having issues. They're cutting stuff. Multiple Call of Duty development studios have been hit by the latest layoffs taking place of Xbox. Insider Gaming's Mike Straw and Tom Henderson can confirm that at least Raven Software and Sledgehammer have been impacted by the layoffs. As of publishing, an actual number or what specific areas of the studios being hit aren't known. And then, of course, as we continue on, right? That's what's crazy, but we continue on. High Moon Studios affected by Xbox layoffs. High Moon Studios, a developer assisting with development on Call of Duty, Warzone, and other projects, has been affected by the latest Xbox layoffs. Seems like it's never ending, right? I mean, these are major cuts. I really don't know at this point in time. If you know, feel free to share in the comments on how many within the Xbox gaming division was part of that 9,000 or so layoffs. I don't know at the time of this research for me, so I'm not going to speculate, but it seems like quite a bit. In addition to that, what's crazier even, I mean, the Golden Goose is crazy, but here's this. A prominent, good, talented studio, Turn 10 Studios, loses nearly half of its staff. They continue on. Turn 10 Studios appears to be one of the biggest developers hit by the latest rounds of mass layoffs at Xbox and Microsoft. After Insider Gaming's Mike Straw reportedly early on Wednesday that Turn 10 was set to be hit, it has now been reported by Jason Schreier that nearly half of the studio is being let go. These are the guys that didn't do the Forza Horizon series. They did the Forza Motorsport, which is more akin to competing with the likes of like Gran Turismo, right? More of a simulation base. But these guys, super talented, very good studio, pretty crazy to think about, right? One of those pillars of Xbox when you think about Halo, Gears, Forza, etc. This is a major studio. In addition to that, Phil Spencer will allegedly retire as CEO after next-gen console launch. Another one by Tom Henderson. Just wanted to throw that out there too and share these. Amongst the rumor, right? The news comes from the Ghost of Hope, like we shared before, who has a decent track record regarding Call of Duty leaks. So that's why I want to expand on this a little more. According to Hope, Phil Spencer is working closely with Sarah Bond and her team to ensure a smooth transition for her takeover as CEO of Microsoft coming once he retires, right? It's a rumor that I've also heard a couple of times this year at the Summer Games Fest, and while I can't fully corroborate the claims, it's scuttlebutt that has been circulating for some time, and I guess it's probably an easy speculation and expectation. And yes, this rumor has been going around. I don't know if I shared it all that much on this channel. Again, I don't like to share rumors too often, too much, or at least if I do, I say super big grain of salt until we have that confirmation. But again, just more confirmation there from other sources, right? Now, what I want to specify here is Mr. Matty Plays, right? Big Xbox guy. He's a good dude. He really is. But I want to share this because he lists out what happened in a nutshell, bullet pointed, stuff like that, right? As we continue, Xbox since the top of 24, rather. The Initiative closed down. Perfect Dark canceled. Everwild canceled. New ZeniMax Online Studios IP canceled. 50% of Turn 10 gone. 10% of King gone, which is crazy because mobile's huge for revenue and stuff like that. Layoffs at Raven Software. Arcane Austin closed down. Isn't Arcane, let me know in the comments down below, isn't Arcane working or supposed to be working on that Blade game? That's up in air, right? So Tango Gameworks nearly lost forever. That's true, because they got picked up by Tencent, right? That sucked. Alpha Dog Games closed down. Roundhouse Studios closed down. Blizzard's Odyssey canceled. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's crazy. But again, when people on the other side of things, the Xbox guys, Concord, that's all they state. And again, there's been a lot of canceled games still, marathons having issues, stuff like that. So there are issues within the game dev industry and the games in general, but this is just massive. That's why, again, we're covering this, and Xbox seemingly losing their way and have lost their way for quite some time. We'll get to that in just a moment here. But again, Jason Schreier continues on here. As one illustration of just how sloppy and chaotic today's mass Xbox layoff has been, some employees at ZeniMax Online Studios are now watching their Slack accounts. Abruptly got locked out. No message from HR, no word on whether they still have a job, just an ominous Slack deactivation. Kind of crazy. I don't know about you guys, but I can only imagine how they felt doing that sort of thing, right? I can't imagine showing up to work and that sort of thing happening. That's crazy. And again, I'm not sure if Sony and Nintendo have done the same things in the past that I haven't heard of. Again, anything can happen, but we have this right now in real time. This is kind of crazy. And by kind of crazy, I mean really disgusting behavior. It sucks. And again, I feel for these guys, coming into that too. It's one thing to have a talk, and I've been part of layoffs in the past. And even at my current job, I've worked with management where they've been laid off as well, and they've had those talks. And even having those talks, it's not a good situation. It's not fun. But to come in and just you're locked out of stuff and things are being weird. And again, before this, I'm sure you're hearing rumblings of rumors and stuff. It's just not fun. I'm sure it's making them sick. They're not eating, sleeping, stress, you name it, right? It just sucks. And that's just a real poor way of doing that here. But before I get on to my next post here, I just want to share a quick video here with you. Let's take a look at this.
Microsoft keeps Xbox alive, not because Xbox is like a new company. It's because it's an incompetent company. The people running Xbox are genuinely fucking terrible at their job. So, If Xbox was standalone, they would have been bankrupt probably 10 years ago. Minimum.
My big concern is we have previously seen that Microsoft is betting big on AI. Now, obviously, I think they have already conducted a lot of those layoffs, but this is part of that whole initiative to have a larger focus on AI and drastically change their business model going forward.
I think the big thing is with all of these layoffs and everything that's happened the last couple of years, how can you trust this leadership team? How can you trust Xbox at this point? Because I don't know how you can come to that conclusion.
All right, as you can see, I think the video kind of speaks for itself. Just wanted to share that. Like I said, I don't want to make this video too long, but let's continue on from that, shall we? As we continue here, Shinobi here. Xbox's user research team has been hit with layoffs, with nearly 50% of them laid off. Huge. The team is considered a key group that focuses on ensuring quality across Xbox games, the platform, and developer tools. Seems like a needed key department to me. Kind of crazy. Once again, are they relying on AI still on this? What are we doing here? Massive. Crazy. We'll get to more here. Something I wanted to share real quick before we do another breakdown is from Yimnus here. I saw this across my page, and he states here, and this is huge. For years, guys like Paris, Colt, Jez, and Clobril built their whole brands around the idea that Xbox was secretly winning. Every setback got spun into some galaxy brain move, or some 4D chess they call it, or a Trojan horse situation they call it. Studios shutting down, just restructuring. Delays, commitment to quality. No games, wait for the showcase. Every L got dressed up like a long-term W if you squinted hard enough. And today proves it was all smoke. You don't gut studios and cancel games because the plan's working. All the people who spent the last few years selling dreams now have nothing to say. Truth is, they're shills and weren't reporting a damn thing. They were running crap PR, and now that the narrative's dead, so's the act, right? So now we have this kumbaya seance type of deal going on. Now we're looking to pivot again. Now they're pivoting, of course, because Helldivers 2 is going to be available on Xbox in August, which it needs more players. That's what Games as a Service does. I'm glad more players get to do that. It's a Games as a Service game. Are more going to follow suit? Possibly. Absolutely possibly, right? But again, they spin it around. They're not taking credit for this. They're not taking accountability, rather, for this. They are spinning to, well, kumbaya, we need to get rid of exclusives, and I don't agree with that at all. I've gone over videos on why exclusives matter. I don't agree with that at all. Exclusives are needed to bolster an ecosystem, to give it value, etc., etc. And if that ever goes away, and it's not because I feel, and by the way, let's take this out of here, it's not because I want to gatekeep or that I think I just want to keep my ecosystem better than somebody else's that I partake in. It's because exclusives matter. I want exclusives also back on Xbox. I want continued exclusives on Nintendo, and I want continued exclusives, whether that be timed or whatever, also on PlayStation, because again, that bolsters the ecosystem. What do consumers get out of it? You get competition, you get quality. We've been over this. I'm not going to go over this again and make it an extra 30-minute video, but exclusives have mattered, always will matter, as long as possible, until for some reason one day they go away because money, right? Possible money. But then we as a consumer, and you're going to look back and realize that that quality is going to go out the window, because what matters is free-to-play games and games as a service games, maximizing that profit. But again, we're not going to get into that there. Let me finish up here before I go over some more thoughts on this from Play4 Index here, okay? As we continue on here, alarming new statements from a prominent leaker about the future of Xbox, because we're not done here, guys. This is a future right now, and this is from the well-known leaker Sneakers So. Who was the first to report on Xbox titles coming to PS5 months before the official announcement? So there's a lot of credibility here, right? He has recently shared new concerns about Xbox's future. He claims that Microsoft plans to compensate for workforce reductions by training managers to use AI tools like Copilot and ChatGPT. Videos are being created to teach prompt writing and how to handle and use language models for asset generation and new production workflows in game development. In simple terms, projects that survive the layoffs are expected to maintain previous quality levels and meet deadlines, but with smaller budgets and without the same experienced workforce. Again, quality is going to come into question mark here until AI catches up a little bit more here. This leaker also emphasizes that this won't be the last wave of layoffs at Xbox Game Studios. We're still not done here, guys. Once they finalize and make it more finite in regards to AI compositions here, expect more, like this is being stated. I think this is kind of common sense, but it's stated here nonetheless. According to Sneaker So's conversations with insider sources, Xbox has only been profitable during the second half of the Xbox 360 era. Since then, it's only shown profitability on paper due to the revenue added by Activision Blizzard in recent financial reports. If the Activision Blizzard acquisition hadn't been finalized, Microsoft likely would have downsized Xbox, keeping only major studios like Mojang, while shutting down on or the merging of the rest, right? Sneaker So also believes that the only reason the Xbox brand still has its current appearance is because of the 10 to 20 million loyal users who renew their expensive Game Pass subscriptions. This recurring revenue is highly valuable for Microsoft, at least until it can transition Xbox into a smaller, more focused operation centered on blockbuster projects. Over the last 2 years, Microsoft has consistently laid off employees, canceled projects, and shut down teams every 3 to 6 months. He argues that this is a slow, deliberate death of Xbox. Let me reiterate this. He argues that this is a slow, deliberate death of Xbox, alright? Already planned out, even if it's never officially communicated to the public. According to Sneaker So, Microsoft no longer values franchises like Halo the way it once did. Whether Halo is made by an internal team or outsourced doesn't matter to the current management. Again, hearkening back to what I'm talking about, quality, exclusives, etc., etc., I'm 100% correct here, guys. I'm not lying to your face just because. As we continue, his final comments about Xbox and Activision Blizzard are as follows. There's a lot that needs to be said about what's been happening since the Xbox Activision Blizzard merger. Many focused only on Bobby Kotick and the board's intention to sell and how profitable it was. But no one really asked how Activision Blizzard itself felt about the journey. Some believe the sales was due to the civil lawsuits or the threat of criminal charges, which certainly played a role. But the core issue was that Activision Blizzard had passed its prime and the board knew it. It wasn't just that Blizzard faced major challenges or that COD profits were being undermined by technical debt and high production costs. The real issue was that Activision Blizzard had long since stopped diversifying its portfolio, relying on a small number of guaranteed IPs. With the deal finalized, many Activision Blizzard execs found high-ranking roles within Microsoft as their leadership was viewed as more successful than Microsoft's internal teams. So it's no surprise that Microsoft is now managing its portfolio in the exact same way Activision Blizzard did. End. Right? So, that being said, to wrap that all up, what are we doing here? Right? Microsoft, Xbox has lost its way for quite some time. Again, the only way they're functioning is for the loyal Game Pass users, and that's why I stated, hey, guys, buy your games. For the longest time, I've been stating, buy your games. I understand it's a great value. I'm not stating that you can't utilize Game Pass to a point, right? People are trying to come at me from time to time, like in my last video I stated, you're saying we can't use Game Pass at all, and da-da-da-da-da. No. I'm saying it has to be a mix between Game Pass and you still have to buy those games because that's the maximum profit right there. It'd be a different story. It would be a different story if there were that 70 million subscription passes, right? For Game Pass. That's not the case, not even going to get close to that case, and now they're freaking out and all these changes have been happening as we know, right? That's really the exclamation point here, guys, is this has been happening for a long time. And the disappointing fact is people can help. Those content creators with large followings could have been helping. Jez, Colt, Gaz, everybody, Boomstick, everybody could have been helping out and being realistic with stuff. Being super realistic with stuff. Calming down the hype, stating the situation, being like, guys, again, and I stated this in the past, guys, look, Game Pass is great, it's great value, definitely partake in it, sub if you want, but please, I implore you, because these guys do follow these guys and follow their words. I implore you to please also purchase games as often as possible. If you can afford to do so, please do so, because that's going to keep the industry healthy, that's going to keep this brand healthy, that's going to continue the quality of success and the quality of the games. Please continue to do so. If you don't do this, there might be problems and complications down the line. I used common sense back when this channel started, when I started criticizing Game Pass, me stating it just doesn't make sense. If they don't hit these numbers, it doesn't make sense. Day one games on a subscription service for that price, and you're going to maintain quality, you're going to maintain the profitability that's needed. Insert. It doesn't make sense to me. From a common sense standpoint, it doesn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to me. It won't ever make sense to me because those goals were not going to be met, and I knew it. They were struggling. They were stuck. And they got up a little more, and they're still stuck. If Call of Duty and etc. wasn't going to move the needle, what would? Some crazy IP out of left field that would get everybody to come over? Maybe, but that didn't happen either. There's all these variables, all these caveats to make this successful or Game Pass successful, and that wasn't the case. Everybody relied on it. We're talking real quick, and we'll end it here because we have to get over to we have to talk about Helldivers in another segment, right? But to end on that note, right? We have the announcement of Helldivers coming over to Xbox, right? In August. The same day as Gears of War coming over to PlayStation. And that's fine. However, a lot of the responses are, it's not just a few here and there, a ton of responses are as follows. I hope it's on Game Pass. Is it on Game Pass? Put on Game Pass, please. I can't afford it. Please put it on Game Pass. Look, gaming is a hobby. It's a luxury. And I understand there's value there. And if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. That's understandable. But that's the first thing it comes to. I'm sure they'll get enough profit for the port. Nixus is doing it and stuff like that. I'm sure they're going to get enough profitability. But again, what I'm focusing on right now is everybody's relying on Game Pass. The loyal customers of Game Pass are still sticking around, of course. Most of them are anyways, until further notice. But that's not going to help Xbox. That's why they're cutting jobs. That's why we're going to AI, because things are not being purchased and bought. You know what I mean? They had to pivot and pivot and pivot and pivot. You can't trust Phil Spencer. He's lied this entire generation, if not before that. All these talking heads between the Gaz, the Colt, Jez, Destin, all of them. And now everybody else that I don't mention today, all of them. We're trying to act like there's always a W for Xbox in the direction that they're doing, and every pivot was magical and mystical and the correct path to go, and everybody should follow suit. They lied to you. Colt Eastwood lied to you. All the talking heads lied to you. Phil Spencer himself lied to you. All of them lied to you as an Xbox fan. They all lied. When there's other content creators, including myself, preference to play PlayStation or not, am just telling you the truth. Take it or leave it. But this is the situation we're in now. We had to talk about this again. Thoughts go out to everybody that was affected. That sucks, and I wish there was another way around it, and I wish it was a different ending to that, for sure. We'll see what happens with Xbox's future, but no, Xbox's future does not look bright. It looks like they're just going to be a full-on third-party publisher, like we admitted to and we've known about for quite some time, and they'll be having one more generation that's going to be this hybrid type of scenario, and we'll see how that unfolds. That being said, we will end the video here. If you made it through this entire long video, thank you so much. There was a lot to go over. We had to get it out there, and I wanted to tell the truth, show you all the facts, and go over that here. If you enjoy the truth, if you want to follow someone that's not going to bullcrap you, if you want to follow someone that's going to give it to you straight regardless, please stick around. If you like what you've seen, please leave a like and a comment. Both those things help out the algorithm, helps me out. Would love to hear from you all down below. Please let me know your thoughts. Of course, if you haven't already, definitely consider subscribing. We're getting super close to that 3,500 sub goal, and I'm sure we could smash that even. Let's keep the truth alive. Let's keep us being honest with one another, and let's keep it going forward, of course. That being said, enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and we will see you next time on the next Xvault Gaming video. And until then, take care.